Hey cousins, welcome back to Respectfully, and to be upfront, this is a tough episode to do. An unfortunate side to bringing you guys the news and to everyone is that it's very easy to become numb when you see tragedy and chaos every single day. But something about this story really deeply has bothered me. So, fair warning, what happened to 17-year-old Austin Metcalf is not easy to hear. If you guys haven't checked the news yet today, there was an unbelievable tragedy at a track meet in Frisco, Texas, where a student, notably a black student, murdered a competitor over a seat underneath a tent at the track meet. We will be mostly talking about that today, but I'll be sure to leave some room for a little comedic relief at the end of our show for the Goofy of the Day as she describes her Harriet Tubman era diet. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and especially send in your super chats on YouTube because I want you guys to be a part of the discussion. This is Respectfully. This is a very insane heavy story. So again, if you guys have not seen the news yet today, everybody is talking about Austin Metcalf. He was a 17-year-old junior at Frisco Memorial High School in Texas, and he was fatally stabbed in the heart during an altercation and was left lying in the arms of his identical twin brother Hunter, who tried to stop the bleeding. Now, part of what makes this whole situation crazy is the unseriousness of why this whole thing came about. According to Jeff Metcalf, Austin's father, he says that a confrontation began when Austin told Carmelo Anthony, yes, that is his real ghetto name with a K, Carmelo Anthony was sitting under the wrong section. So if you've ever seen a track meet, everybody has their big tents out, and apparently he was sitting under the wrong tent. And this prompted an angry response from Anthony when he was told that he was in the wrong section, and he then turned and stabbed 17-year-old Austin in the chest with a knife, bringing the event to a close. So the quick update on that is Carmelo Anthony has since been arrested at the scene and charged with first-degree murder due to the allegations, because for legal reasons, I still have to say everything is allegedly, even though there were many witnesses to this very public, heinous, vile crime. And he is currently being held without bond in Collin County Jail, and I truly hope he's being charged as an adult. Now, this story just gets more and more sad as you look into the details of it and see who these kids were and just the directions that they were going. When you look at Austin Metcalf, this 17-year-old, again, identical twin, I can't imagine the horror of that, having someone that is literally a mirror image of you that you spent your entire life with being, two peas in a pod, and having that identical twin die in your arms is tragic enough. But it's especially tragic because Austin was such a good kid. He was, again, a 17-year-old junior at Frisco Memorial High School in Frisco, Texas. He was a standout student athlete with a nearly 4.0 GPA. He was also the MVP of his football team and a member of the track and field team, as well as a part of the National Honor Society. And seeing that he's a good kid, you wouldn't think it gets any sadder. Then you see his Twitter bio. I go on Twitter and I found his account on accident, and I see his bio and it talks about just all the stats and the things that he had going for him. And then I saw his last tweet. His last tweet is what really threw me off, because not only does his bio show how much aspiration he had to go to college, putting his resume in his Twitter bio, but then you see his last tweet. His very last tweet that he made just days before passing away was, "Faith that God got me, my hard work will pay off." His hard work, or sorry, I misread that. "Faith that God got me and my work will pay off." And it should have. His hard work certainly should have paid off, but instead it was cut short due to a vile, just senseless, reckless act that I'm still, even to this very moment, trying to comprehend how an altercation about a seat can get to this level of intensity. And then you get to see just the type of household he came from when you see his father speak out. His father had this to say about the murder.
The sad part about it is he died in his brother's arms. They were twins, identical twins. And his brother was holding on to him, trying to make it stop bleeding. And he died in his brother's arms. And I rushed up there, and I saw him on the gurney. And I could tell. They said he wasn't breathing. I could see all the blood. I saw where the wound was.
Understandably still in shock, Jeff Metcalf says a precious memory was made just this past weekend when he took his twin boys hunting. That's where Austin got his first hog. Well, this morning at around 10, he rushed here to Kirkendall Stadium where the Memorial High School student athlete suffered a fatal stab wound during this track and field meet. Frisco police say a fight broke out between two students when one stabbed the other. More than 100 student athletes were participating in this meet. Fortunately, they were safely evacuated. Police arrested the suspect. He is 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony of Frisco. He is now charged with murder. Some students unfortunately witnessed this deadly encounter and have been interviewed by police. Despite life-saving efforts, the 16-year-old victim died at the hospital. Austin, his father, was born 2 minutes before his twin brother Hunter, the two inseparable, as you can imagine. Austin is being remembered as an outstanding student at Memorial High, his football team's MVP, and a young man of faith. His father grappling with loss and forgiveness.
I'm not trying to judge, but what kind of parents did this child have?
It's a fair question to ask.
What was he taught? He brought a knife to a track meet, and he murdered my son by stabbing him in the heart. The guy was in the wrong place. They asked him to move, and he bowed up. This is murder. I don't know. I know they have someone in custody.
Yeah, we do.
And you know what? I already forgive this person. Already. God takes care of things. God's going to take care of me. God's going to take care of my family.
Oh, that was the part that broke me down last night. Seeing that not even a full day after his young teenage son was murdered for such an irrelevant reason, he still went the biblical and godly way of giving forgiveness to Carmelo Anthony. And I see a video like that, and it just blows me away in a very beautiful way. I have so much respect for him. I have so much respect for this father, and it shows why Austin and Hunter seem to be such good kids. They seem to have such a good head on their shoulders, seem to be so God-fearing and trusting in God's plan. And to see their father just handling that level of trauma with so much grace and forgiveness, stand-up individual. I can't emphasize enough the importance of praying for his family's healing, and just wow. What a class act to be able to be so forgiving. Because I know I couldn't be. I personally, with where I am, even just watching this, as someone who has never even met Austin Metcalf, I find the thought of forgiving Carmelo so difficult. Because that is just such... That's all I have to say about that portion. I will just give his father his flowers for that. That is a good man with great kids, and I'm so deeply sorry that he had to witness and endure this, and that his family for the rest of their lives are going to have to deal with this pain. And for all the friends of Hunter as well, or Hunter and Austin as well, that are going to have to deal with the trauma that Carmelo just brought on all of them. So then I started, of course, asking, what kind of kid is Carmelo? Because I think the father brought up a really good question of who is raising this child? Who is this child? Really, this grown man, because at 17, you're essentially a grown man. So Carmelo Anthony, with a K, Ghetto, a 17-year-old senior over at Frisco Centennial High School, so a rival high school, also a student athlete, and he is now being charged with first-degree murder. So I actually, one thing about me, I'm the FBI, I actually did go and find his Instagram, and I thought it was interesting to see the kind of kid that Carmelo is. So first, I saw in his story highlights this photo of him playing football. And the reason I keep calling his name Ghetto, if you don't know, Carmelo Anthony is a basketball player. And I'm assuming he's named after the basketball player. But I saw this, he was playing football, and it's like, okay, so this is your dream. You want to be a football player. Well, do you not realize that all of your aspirations of being an athlete are now thrown away as well? Like, I wonder when a kid does something that when a teenager, when anybody does something that's senseless and reckless, I just sit and I wonder, do you not realize that you just threw away your entire life? Allegedly, you were that big of an idiot that you felt the need to stab somebody in the chest. And now your whole life is over too. It's like, I want so much better for Black youth. And no matter how many times you guys try to call me, not my cousins, but like the hating cousins, the ones that we don't invite to the cookout, you guys try to call me a coon and say that I hate Black people and that all these different narratives. And that to me is baffling, because then you'll be silent when you see a Black kid like this throw their life away. And fortunately, majority of the Black people I'm seeing on the internet are not on that side, but there definitely are. And we'll get into that in just a minute. But this is the type of violence that needs to come to an end. Because not only did he just take another kid's life, his life is over too. And I want to clarify this. There's a big difference, and this is a key that I think a lot of people need to understand the difference between is sympathy versus empathy. Because don't get me wrong, because I know what some of you are thinking already. It's like, how can you sit here and even care about Carmelo throwing his life away? That's empathy. I don't care. I am detached from that. So sympathy is being able to look at this and be like, you know what? Those are 2 lives lost with a lot of potential. Empathy would be if I sat here and felt like, oh no, Carmelo, like, I get it. I wish I could help you. I hope he rots in prison. I truly do. We had a conversation earlier this week about capital punishment and whether or not we should bring that back. You know what? If there is a time for it, I'm very pro public stoning. This is insane. Like, I cannot emphasize enough how disgusted I am by this person. I hope he has a prison cell next to Diddy. I do. I really do. So the sympathy is, again, Carmelo, idiot. Why did you throw your life away? Empathy, not an ounce in my body for anything that happens to him going forward, because this is really terrible. And I, again, just want to know, why was he so angry? What is going on? I did see his athletic record, and he ran a 12.38 second 100-meter sprint, which is terrible. So maybe that's why he was so upset, because earlier in the day, he ran the 100-meter sprint. And not to be petty, but y'all know I used to run track. I used to do 110-meter hurdles, and I had a better time than his 100-meter sprint. So 10 more meters with hurdles in front of me, and I wasn't even a state caliber athlete, in the 110s and other events I was. And you're running 100 meters in 12.38 seconds, so you suck at athletics. Maybe that's why you're bitter. Maybe you're bitter because Austin had so much potential. Says in his bio, he's like 6 foot 220. He was a great athlete, MVP. Maybe are you jealous? Is it jealousy? Is jealousy what has led you to be this evil? Like, I'm just really trying to sit here and understand it. So I'm trying to be careful with my words here, because I really could just absolutely crash out about how much of a hood rat you have to be to even bring a knife with you to a track meet. So I continue to look at his Instagram. Carmelo, he is a hood rat. He is ghetto. I saw that he had this photo up with some of his friends. Now, I don't know if that's an airsoft gun or a real gun. I don't know guns well enough to know. But either way, ghetto. Either way, I see a finger on a trigger. Either way, I see you trying to pose like you're some tough, big hood guy. This is not cute. How many times do I have to tell you guys about hood rattery culture and how it's destroying Black youth? Okay, putting on a rap song and holding up a gun with your finger on the trigger, thinking you look real tough. Well, now you look like a jailbird. Good luck getting a gun in jail. Good luck seeing these friends again in prison, if the allegations are true. It's just stupidity. Then I go and I look at his Instagram and I see this post, and it's him again, Carmelo acting like a tough guy. And I just want you guys to get the full picture here of, this is why Black people aren't beating the allegations. This is why Black people are tired of being associated as a community, because this is just ghetto. This is ghetto. And what does that caption say? Can you zoom in on that? You know, I ain't got my eyes on. I play football. You know, I'm blind as a bat. But basically talking about how he's in the field. Well, now you're in a prison cell. And the one thing that even gave me a little bit of hope about society is that, oh, thank you, Will and Mr. Rodriguez, I still play football. I just been in the wrong field. Again, ghetto. Just ghetto. And I did get a little bit of reassurance by the fact that in the comment section, they were whacking him. They were absolutely roasting him alive in the comment section. I see some talking about, we're not freeing you, or not screaming free you, which is something I'm happy the Black community is starting to realize is a ghetto joke. One of my biggest pet peeves is when somebody does something illegal and ghetto and ratchet, especially robbing somebody or harming somebody or doing a violent crime. And then the next thing you know is I'm being asked on Facebook if I want to get a free Quan t-shirt. No, I am not buying a free Quan t-shirt. Keep Quan in jail. Keep Tyreeka and them in jail. Keep Carmelo in prison. I'm glad that people are finally realizing that. Forever cooked, okay? You're in cell D1, bro. Congrats. Honestly, because hopefully he's better at football than he was at track, but actually doesn't even matter now because he just threw his whole life away. Just stupid. But I'm so proud to see so many Black, and I just realized that's James Hart. Shout out to James Hart. And yes, I'm petty. I went and liked all these shady comments. I sure did. Because I'm glad that we're no longer celebrating this intense of hood rattery, and that even in the Black community, majority of people are seeing that this was just objectively wrong. Okay. Now, I want to talk about some of the narratives that are going on the internet about this, because anytime there's a situation like this, there's many, many discussions to be had. And one of the first internet narratives is that a lot of people are saying that if the roles were reversed, I'm sure you guys have heard that narrative by now. If the roles were reversed, then all these different things would happen. So what that essentially means is that if Carmelo was white, the perpetrator was white, and if Austin were Black, then this would be the scandal of the century. Okay, and that this would be talked about everywhere, that it would be breaking the internet, and there'd be riots, and there'd be protests, and there would be all kind of looting and chaos, just wreaking havoc everywhere. Now, that being said, I understand the argument. I do. I feel like that argument gets abused sometimes, but I understand the argument. But what I do think is that it's very much worth noting that if Austin was also Black and Carmelo is Black, then this would not have received any media coverage at all. This wouldn't have received any outrage at all. Because I've really just broken it down to a science that if you have Black on white crime, these days, you'll see some internet noise. You'll see some people on X, aka Twitter, being all mad, I don't want to say throwing fists, that sounds like I'm making it a joke, but no, it's like for real, like crashing out on the internet for a good reason. So Black on white crime, you see the internet noise. When it's Black on Black crime, crickets. Absolute crickets. When it's a Black person taking the life of another Black person, there is nothing said about it. That is happening every single day, and it is crickets. I did a whole documentary here at PragerU called Their Lives Mattered, where we talked about all these children that are dying because of gang violence in the Black community, and nobody is talking about it because they're too focused on white on Black crime. Because when there's white on Black crime, board up your businesses. Honestly, if it's like, Lord help your community if a white person takes the life of a Black person, even if they're both hood rats, because then it's a BLM issue. And then you got Black on Asian crime, which it would just be a Thursday. Okay, because I'll never forget how everybody viewed the Stop Asian Hate movement as unserious, but really, I was living in the San Francisco Bay Area at the time. Asian people were getting whacked up and down. Like, you would see Asian people minding their business in San Francisco and just crackheads running up on them, pulling up on them and assaulting them and robbing them. And people would just like pay it dust because for some reason, Asians get no respect and Asians get just like trampled over in society. And as someone who's 2% Chinese, I do take that personal because that is a personal issue to me. But even just as a human looking at society, we got to unnormalize that. I think it's fair when the Asians start saying to stop the Asian hate. And while people try to view it as a joke, it's not a joke. It's not funny just because they're Asian. But I do feel like when it's a Black on Asian crime or anybody on Asian crime, people just overlook it more often than not. And Black on Hispanic crime, I'm not even going to talk about that because, child, Black on Hispanic, that's a conversation I don't even want to risk having because in Los Angeles, it is severe. And vice versa. The beef between Black and Hispanic, especially Black and Mexican communities, out of control. Really out of control. But me and Mr. Rodriguez, we're good. Right, Mr. Rodriguez?
I heard that.
Okay, and did. Okay. Black on Hispanic crime is crazy. But it is worth noting, again, part of why black on black crime, and I hate to say it and to sound like a coon, but black on black crime is never going to get the attention that it should be getting, because when you have 170-ish black on black murders happening on a weekly basis, it would be the whole news cycle. Honestly, somebody said that to me on Twitter today. They pointed that out when I had talked about, this whole breakdown on when the media actually cares about a murder. And they're like, you realize there's almost 200 black on black murders a week. That would be the whole news cycle. And I was like, ain't no way. Then I looked it up and they were not exaggerating. I was mortified. And I already knew this because I talk about all the time. In the black community, more black people kill other black people every 6 months than the KKK has killed in 92 years. If you really want to break down the numbers, that's a stat that will blow your mind. So it's really out of control. Another narrative I want to talk about is how people are saying the media is not talking about this. I understand. I understand why people are saying that. Because for a while, it would be completely overlooked when you see a black person taking the life of a white person. It doesn't get talked about often. And, in general, it doesn't. But I also want conservative, not y'all zooming it in already because I can't read it from this far. I really got to get contacts. I hate contacts. I hate touching my eye. That's a whole nother conversation. But back to the matter here. So I saw N Wokeness tweeted, say his name, Austin Metcalf, high achieving student, athlete, near 4.0 grade point average, killed in cold blood by Carmelo Anthony, zero national coverage or outrage. Here's the thing is don't do too much. Don't do too much. People were posting tweets about that hours after the incident happened. You haven't even given the news cycle time to be able to talk about it. And let me see. Sorry, I thought I got a note. You haven't given the news cycle time to even talk about the incident. Okay. So you have to be careful saying that because it makes you look unserious when you haven't even given it time for there to be any kind of media coverage and outrage. And that being said, about 24 hours later, literally every single outlet is talking about it. Every single outlet is talking about this situation. And as they should be. It does show a sign of the times a little bit. It shows the change. And it shows that what a lot of these major Twitter accounts need to realize is you are the media now. You are the mainstream media now. Okay? No shade to the mainstream media outlets, but they're not getting the viewerships that they used to. Actually, all tea, all shade, and all offense. They're not getting the coverage they're not as relevant as they used to be. People aren't checking in all the time like they used to. I told somebody that my New York Times article came out yesterday. They're like, congratulations, but nobody reads it anymore. I was like, oh! I was like, not you gagging me. But that being said, when you see it viral on X, that is the media talking about it. So again, I don't want us to take away from the severity of this situation by downplaying facts. And by sitting there saying that, oh, the media is ignoring this. Why isn't the media talking about this? I even put the title of this episode as I dare the media to cover this. And they are. Thank God that we have gotten past the point where they were afraid to talk about a black murderer. Because for far too long, black privilege was that you could go out and do these crimes and nobody was going to talk about it. So I'm glad to see that at least those types of changes are finally happening. Because when you have, again, a teenage athlete, star student, God-fearing teenager murdered and left dying in the arms of his twin brother, if the media didn't talk about this, we'd be back in 2021. Honestly. So I'm glad that we have gotten past that. But I do want to just emphasize, now that conservatives are winning back culture, we need to do our best to keep it. And excuse me. And we don't keep culture by playing the left's losing games. The game of utilizing the same formula of outrage that has worked before and continuously doing that because it works, that is the left's game. I'm crying because I'm choking, child. Don't come for me. We can't play those games. Child, let me sip this tea. With all that being said, it's important to provide full context. and to not be too quick to jump the gun, because we have been through so many of these racially charged situations where I feel like that, honestly, I do feel like I have mixed feelings. I don't like I'm about to spend half this episode coughing. Mr. Rodriguez, how you doing?
You know, I'm doing pretty good. I would say this whole thing is pretty tragic. And, you know, I'm just reading in the comments now, just a lot of people just bringing up the initial point of just why would you bring the knife to the track meet? And, you know, to be honest, growing up in the school that I did, there was a lot of people who did do stuff like that, where they would bring a weapon to school because there was a lot of tensions between different students, or there was even gang members at some of the in school that I was at. And so I would think to myself, man, it would be a tragic situation should somebody gets into a fight and they end up pulling that out and using it, because, you know, as when you're younger, your mind's not fully developed. You're not thinking of all the consequences. You're not thinking of everything through and through. And it's unfortunate that if you do use that, the price that's going to be paid, someone's blood's going to get spilled, and then you're going to throw away your life. To me, that's tragic. And there needs to be justice, and especially in this situation, just to see the backlash and everything that's happening, what people are talking about. I have seen situations like this happen. And at my school, for instance, not directly like this, but I have heard of, like a kid getting stabbed at school, like on the handball court, like it's happened. And so for me, it's just tragic when this does happen, but it goes to show you that, like, not having that full understanding of, wow, like, be careful when you even carry those things and think twice about your decisions. You have to be smarter, and don't do that. I mean, look at the situation we're in now. That could have just been solved. Even if they did get into a fight, that would have been better than the kid pulling out the knife and stabbing. To me, that's just, it's tragic.
You know, it makes me think of the movie Friday. Have you seen Friday, Mr. Rodriguez?
Oh, come on. I've seen Friday.
Okay, y'all know Mr. Rodriguez got street cred, low key. So in the movie Friday, you know, I was just rewatching this movie because it's just such a classic. And they talk a lot about Craig, the main character on there. He's getting ready to go and shoot his nemesis in the movie. And then his father stops and goes like, no, go use your hands. You win some, you lose some. And, you know, Austin, that was a big kid. That was a big athlete. He probably would have whooped and dusted Carmelo Anthony. But that doesn't justify you pulling out a knife and taking this kid's life. Okay, that is out of control. And thank you, Mr. Rodriguez, jumping in. I don't know why I was just choking, child. Maybe it's just because I'm emotional. This whole situation has had me choked up all day, literally.
Absolutely. Well, you know, more people got to watch Friday. More people got to watch Friday.
They need to. And Carmelo, he needs to. Actually, you know what? Carmelo, he's not watching anything because he's going to a cold prison cell. But, you know, back to what I was saying, I really want conservatives, as we are winning back culture, I don't want us to keep playing the left's games. And the left's games include just recycling narratives and putting it anywhere it applies and making things racial when they don't have to be. And I understand fully why this situation has become so racially charged. But even the father of Austin said that this situation didn't necessarily have to do with race. However, it does have to do with the cultural issue with race. So it's like, I get both sides of it. Do I think that Carmelo attacked Austin because of race? Wouldn't it shock me if that turned out to be part of his MO, but I don't think that that was the sole aggressor in the situation. Could you say that he probably had some extra hostility because Austin was this tall, successful, good-looking white guy? Probably. I do think envy was probably a part of it, but that's not the main focus that should happen here, because that's the left's game. And that being said, like, I want to analyze this as someone who used to be a BLM activist. I want to kind of analyze a little of the context here just so I can give you a forewarning of what the BLM style people, these Marxists, what their argument is going to be. But first, I want you guys to see what Austin's mother had to say and what Austin's brother had to say.
Just doesn't make any sense. I mean, that's just because the kid was mad, my son is not here anymore, and I don't understand it.
He's a good kid. We just got a little altercation in high school yet, but he has a good heart. Everyone around here knows he's a great kid. He just one mistake from that dude, and this took my brother. He didn't deserve it. No one deserves a loss from a family like that. I know people that lose their family members all the time, but I just didn't know it's gonna be mine so soon. I'm my best friend and my brother my whole life, but there was this kid before I knew his name now, this kid was sitting under our tent at track. We asked him to move. He started getting aggressive and talking reckless. And my brother stepped in and said, "You need to move." And he's like, "Make me move." Austin grabbed his backpack. This kid, I tried to whip around as fast as I could, but I didn't see the stab. But then I look at my brother, and then I'm not going to talk about the rest. So
Yeah.
just that's just what I saw. And I tried to help him, but
It was just senseless.
it was really senseless. Really, I don't know why a person would do that to someone just over that little argument. It's just crazy in this world nowadays how people just up and do that. Like that man has a family. That man has people that care about them all the time, and he did everything for our family too. He was a strong man. He was a strong kid. Real strong.
Just so heartbreaking. And I show you guys that just to add extra context of what actually happened here. So again, Carmelo was underneath a track tent that he shouldn't have been. So Austin went up to him and was like, "Hey, get from under our tent." And just so you guys understand that from the perspective of like a former high school track runner, when somebody's underneath your tent, it's not a matter of just like, oh, they're like here to chill out and to like cool off. It's like, no, like that's where your equipment is. That is very expensive. That's where your food is that could be tampered with. That's where all your drinks and rehydration kits are that again can be tampered with. Having somebody from a different team, especially a rival school, it is that serious. If somebody is underneath your tent and they don't have friends over there, which I wasn't there, I don't know the full context, but if this is all allegedly still, if all of that is true, then he shouldn't have been there. So some people were mad on Twitter saying that Austin shouldn't have told him to move. It was just a tent. It's like, no, like that's not a safe situation for somebody random to be underneath your tent, especially because I guarantee your school had their own tent. I guarantee you his school had his own tent. So I don't know why he was there. Now, the part that a lot of people are going to hyperfixate on, and again, the reason I'm explaining this to you is because at this point, we have to act like we've been here before. We have to act like we have seen these racially divisive situations before, because we have from both sides. We've seen the BLM stuff and we've seen the justice for somebody white stuff. And what always happens is as this situation is growing and as this is breaking more headlines and breaking more news and more people are learning about it. And if you look on X right now, there's a lot of people mad at the Black community right now. And you know what? I can't blame them. I can't blame them. It's like, obviously, it's not an excuse to go and be racist to every Black person out there, because Lord knows I'm getting cursed out on X for no reason right now. But it's like, I understand why there's tension. But that being said, we have to be prepared for what the leftist media is going to do, for what the BLM style people are going to do, and what's going to be brought up in court. And one of the things that I'm already seeing, if you just search the word backpack on X and go to latest, you will see a lot of people trying to say that Carmelo Anthony deserves justice and deserves to be taken or to not be in prison because of the fact that Austin, according to his brother, allegedly grabbed the backpack first. I am not defending Carmelo's actions. When I tried to explain this on X, a lot of people are coming at me now saying that I'm defending Carmelo. Carmelo deserves nothing more than a cold, rotten prison cell. Okay? And to be dealt with in the highest intent of the law, if the allegations are true, which I believe they are. But that being said, Austin grabbing the backpack, the BLM crowd is going to hyperfixate on that. So what I am making sure people realize is do not be afraid to address every single element of the situation. Context always matters. People are like, oh, the backpack part is irrelevant. In the grand scheme of things, it should be. But context always matters when we have these type of situations if we want to be able to combat the lies and the narratives that the left is going to try to bring up and what the radical Marxists are going to try to bring up. And what the fact of the matter is regardless of Austin grabbing this backpack, the reality is that what Carmelo did was unnecessary. It was reckless. It was violent. It was disgusting. It was pure evil. So don't be afraid to acknowledge the backpack part when it does come up, because you already know it's going to be the detail that so many of these people are going to hold on to. Okay, so this whole narrative that I see slowly brewing on Twitter of people trying to protect Carmelo, shut it all the way down, because that is not a proportionate response. You don't stab somebody in the chest because they grabbed your backpack. Even if you are on defense in that moment, take your bag back. Tell them to leave you alone. Take a step back. Square up. Do what you got to do outside of taking someone's life. Go get a chaperone. It's a track meet at a high school. Be so for real. It's not like this guy is robbing you at gunpoint. It's different if somebody's trying to rob you at gunpoint in the middle of Southside LA. Okay? Or East. I don't even know what Southside LA is like. Child, I don't go down there. But that being said, you don't, like, you get what I'm saying, y'all? You get what I'm saying, y'all? Like, this is not that you don't bring a knife to a fight about a seat under a tent. And what it really comes down to is the Black community is in a state of emergency. Okay? When you have a child walking around with a knife at a track meet, showing that he has the intent of harming somebody, why are you so angry, child? Are you being abused at home? What is going on in your household? I want his parents looked into, especially if he has other siblings. I want to know what is going on in this child's life to have him so angry that he's taking a knife to a track meet. I want all the context. And a lot of people are going to say the context is irrelevant, but you know what? It can be irrelevant to you. I want to know. I want to know so that when he is prosecuted, we know every single detail so we don't end up in another situation like Breonna Taylor, where 5 years later, y'all still don't know what happened. Okay? So many people replied to when I actually broke down what actually happened with Breonna Taylor, and they were so shocked that, like, after all these years, I didn't know that this was the true story. I'm making sure that as this situation develops, that the details are precise. Because at the end of the day, Carmelo deserves to be in prison if the allegations are true, and I want to make sure that we have every single element of the facts to a T. And until then, the Black community, we have to do better. We have to do better with our youth. We have to protect our youth from making these kind of decisions, regardless of the color of the person that they're harming or in a confrontation with. This is not appropriate. We have to do better. We are in a state of emergency. Because even Matt Walsh was tweeting today about how we have to start being honest and how young Black men are so much more prone to being aggressively, disproportionately violent. That tweet made me so mad. And it's again one of those situations where truth hurts. Truth hurts. I hate it. I hate to say it. I hate to admit it. I hate to even have to acknowledge that in a community that I love being a part of, that violence is so normalized amongst us. The Black community is in a state of emergency. And God, may you please cover the Metcalf family in your blood. And please guide them to healing. And may justice be served. Justice for Austin Metcalf. And that's all I have to say about that. Now, to try to, after all that heaviness, we have to talk about our Goofy of the day. Again, the Black community is in a state of emergency, and that goes in so many ways. And just because you guys stuck through all the heaviness of this episode, I need you to see the heaviness of this woman.
I hate when people talk about Black women being obese. I hate it because it becomes a way to blame us for a set of conditions that we didn't create. We are living in the Trump era. And look, those policies kill our people. And what public health practitioners think is that our stress responses in the body change our metabolism. It's literally that the racism that you're experiencing and the struggle to make ends meet actually means the diet don't work for you the same.
Oh my goodness. So this woman of width right here is sitting here trying to make it seem like the reason that so many Black people and so many Black women are fat is because of the conditions that we've been put into. Girl, if you don't get out of here with this Harriet Tubman era diet, I'm so tired of Black people using the excuse of, well, we're obese because we have this diet and we have this diet because of the slaves. And when we were slaves, we were forced to eat all this. Girl, it is 2025. If you don't take yourself to Whole Foods, in fact, you can stay at Walmart. You can stay at Food for Less. But you don't have to go to the fancy cakes and zebra cakes and the cosmic brownies. You can pick up a vegetable. Apples are right there. You saw Ashton Hall doing his morning routine with the bananas. Black folk can eat bananas. Oh no, they're going to take that out of context and say I'm calling them us monkeys, chair. I'm not, but you can eat a banana. You don't have to be a monkey to eat a banana. So this whole narrative is just out of control. And then it's like when people try to have this whole energy of Black people are still so obese at large, because I should have pulled up the statistics, but the stats of how obese Black people are is really out of control. Okay. But to even try to blame our ancestors for that, it's like our ancestors were working in the heat and being starved. Weren't slaves being starved? So how are you fat today, Miss Mamas? How are you a woman of width with a big back today because Harriet Tubman was forced to eat corn with no gravy? Out of control. So I want to give you all a little history lesson, just some of the things that big-backed black people, didn't mean to say big-backed black people, but some slave foods that we still eat a lot today. So a lot of the slaves, they were forced to eat cornmeal. And, you know, this was a cheap staple back in the day. It would often be just mush, but sometimes if there was a delicacy, they would get cornbread or hoe cakes. You know, these high carb, low nutrient, poorly digestible foods. That's what a lot of black people, the slaves, were eating. A lot of corn, which nothing wrong with some corn, but having that as your primary food, like, definitely not good for you. We had to eat a lot of pork, a lot of fat back, which is why a lot of black people today, or a lot of black people of that era, had fat backs. But at the same time, they really did it because they were out working. Okay. But, you know, the reason I bring this up is because this is an excuse that I'm tired of hearing. It's like, I grew up eating a lot of pork chops. I grew up eating a lot of chitlins. If you don't know, chitlins are pig intestines. And you know what? I won't lie. Chitlins is a delicacy. It is a hood delicacy. I enjoy a nice bowl of chitlins, but you have to have the Frank's Red Hot. I don't want Louisiana hot sauce. I don't want sriracha. I don't want any other hot sauce. Don't bring me an off-brand. If I'm eating chitlins, I want Frank's Red hot sauce. My cousin calls them booty noodles because they're very nasty inherently. And I don't eat everybody's chitlins. I only eat my mother's, my aunties. And that's really it, because chitlins have to be cleaned for 5 hours per bucket, even after you buy them pre-cleaned. And if you don't buy them pre-cleaned, I'm not eating your chitlins because that's just nasty. Okay, they ate a lot of molasses, so they needed a little sugar. They ate spoiled meat quite often. They ate a lot of beans, a lot of peas, so high protein, high fiber, but not that many other nutrients in there. They ate a lot of forage greens, okay? A lot of sweet potatoes. So a lot of this is the stuff that in the black community is still very common today. And obviously other communities eat this stuff too, but they had much smaller portions. So part of why you didn't see Harriet and all the other slaves being big-backed is because they had small portions. You don't need to eat so much food, is the moral of the story. You don't need to be fat even if you still have the diet of your ancestors. And you can change your diet too, okay? I'm black. I grew up eating a lot of hood delicacies. My poor, broke black self, I used to be eating fried salami on wheat bread. And that was a delicacy to me. But you know what I eat now? I eat an Air One. I throw an avocado in my meal, okay? I don't eat seed oils. I don't eat that. And you notice this? My back isn't big. My back is not big. So this excuse of why a lot of black people are fat is because of what happened in the past. That's out of control. But then they even try to make it seem like it's because of today with all the stress and mental health issues that black people have. That is more often than not your own fault. Okay, to try to blame racism as why you're stressed out and why your mental health has you eating so much, please. How are you that stressed? If you're that stressed out, then you're too stressed to eat. If you're that stressed out, then go to the gym. Utilize walking and running and lifting weights to mitigate your stress. You don't need to blame poverty and racism for the reason that your back is big. And the crazy part is there's so many studies out there that attribute the reason that black people are fat because of racism. Then why, when a bunch of black people live amongst other black people, are they all fat? If we're being so for real. And I'm so passionate about this because I want us to live longer. I want us to live better lives. I want us to be a more civilized society that looks good and feels good, because we have great genetics more often than not when it comes to athleticism and all these different things. So use that strength of pushing weights to also push a plate away. Because cultural diet patterns, yes, it largely comes from the lineage of you eat what your parents ate and your parents ate what your grandparents ate and so forth. But these historical struggle meals, it's not an excuse anymore. Girl, you were taking up 3 seats. I don't know how that one seat was even holding her big self. Goofy. Stop blaming that. Stop blaming your width on trauma. If anything is a better argument, I can understand the socioeconomic element of the argument, because a lot of black people are in poverty in a lot of these impoverished neighborhoods. I I could be wrong, but I want to say it's like close to a quarter of Black neighborhoods are not close to a grocery store. So a lot of times they resort to eating fast food instead of healthy foods. And because fast food sometimes, or more often than not, is cheaper. I don't know if it still is. I don't eat at like McDonald's and stuff anymore unless I'm truly desperate after the club or something. But when it comes to eating fast food, it's like, it's hard to believe that you can't find somewhat healthier options. It might not be the food that you want to eat, but at least you would be healthier. And I understand the sadness of you live in poverty, so all you want is a good meal. It's like, okay, then don't complain about being fat. Don't complain about being fat and get yourself out of that situation. And when it comes to the people that I do have great empathy for, of the socioeconomic people, because I remember when I was younger and I would be with especially some of my more poor cousins, and like I remember there was this deal at the gas station that I hate to say it like this, but my Black friends and I used to go to, where if you would get $1 and a dime, we would go and look for $1 and a dime worth of change, and that was enough to get a hot dog and a free pop. Because the hot dog was $1, tax was 10 cents, and you got a free pop for it, and that we were the happiest kids in the world. So I understand that the cheap delicacies, that tends to be a way, and you know, all of us in that situation, we were all either on welfare, link cards, WIC, or all of the above. And link cards, I think, might just be a regional thing in Illinois. But you know what? I feel like there should be incentives with those cards where you can get a discount on healthy food. I could support something like that for people who really actually should be qualified. Now, granted, when it comes to welfare, there needs to be drug testing and all these other protocols that come with it, but I do believe that there should be incentive for buying healthy foods. I think that there should be limitations on buying junk food. I ate way too many Flamin' Hot Cheetos in my youth. It is a miracle that I even still have a metabolism, let alone organs that function. I was constantly eating Doritos and Flamin' Hot Cheetos and all of that because that was what we liked, and that was also what we could afford. But if you made it more accessible to have fruit and fresh fruit and those different things in the home as well, I think that these young Black kids can develop a taste palette for that as well, because we all know Black people, we all know a lot of Black people who like a lot of fruit, not just watermelon or grape, but a lot of fruit. Black people like strawberries too. And on that positive note, I hope you go and have some strawberries and grapes and bananas and fresh fruit in the name of being healthy. Shout out to the Black community, and shout out to the Black healthy people without big backs. That is all for today's show. This show was chaotic. Please pardon me for literally choking and almost dying on the show today. We made it through. And I love that you guys are always participating in the live chats. Keep it coming. Be sure to come back on Tuesday. We have more great show for you guys. Like, comment, share, subscribe. We are almost at 100,000 followers or subscribers, aka cousins. And I will see you guys on Tuesday.